So welcome back to the part two of this video. We have with us Mr. Anand sir. First of all, thank you so much, sir, that you have taken out time to be with us on this podcast today.
It's my pleasure.
So in continuing with the previous video, sir, we were talking about moonlighting. So what I wanted to ask you, sir, that are you in favor of that or not? Straightforward question.
See, I think there is no question of being in favor of it. It's very
Okay.
simple because the very fact that it's a non-compliance to an agreement which you have done with an employer. But yes, if you have taken a contractual role where you have clearly articulated to your organization that you are free to take multiple assignments, which is the typical way of working as a freelancer. So if I'm working with a company as a freelancer and I'm legally and technically free to take many assignments at the same time, then this is not even be called a moonlighting. The
Mm.
very fact the moonlighting word came in that I am tied to an employer, the very fact means that I am now dedicated to that employer and I should not take any work which is not in the knowledge of my employer. And if somebody is doing a multiple assignment without intimating to their organization, then it is moonlighting. So there is no question of supporting it. But the second dimension, if we go in further detail that why is this happening? This is happening because there is an organization which is allowing it to happen. So while one organization says that moonlighting is not good, but there's another organization which is actually asking an employee of this organization to work. So they are promoting moonlighting. Now, the root cause is that there's a talent shortage. Otherwise, why will this kind of a situation will happen? So if we have to attack at the root cause, I think we have to again understand what I said in my previous discussion with you, that the industry needs and the skill set which is being produced by our institutions has to be mapped. If that problem is addressed, that is beneficial for both the employee, beneficial for students, beneficial for organization, and overall, as I said, the missed opportunities by our corporates will also be encashed. Thereby, the GDP of our country will also increase. So it's not a question of supporting or not supporting. I think we have to go to the root cause and fill the skill need and the skill availability gap. And the second is, yes, we have to also come up with the new norms of employee contracts, because we have been in the industrial age. There were some typical ways of doing contract between the employer and employee. Now, as we work in the knowledge age, as we work in this hybrid mode of working, when people are working from home, working from anywhere, working in office, so it calls for newer, I would say, in business we call as a business models. I think we have to look at a new employee engagement models. A lot of corporates have started working on this direction. My suggestion is the management consultants also should start working on this area and come up with innovative employee engagement model, which actually addresses the requirement of the corporate without compromising any lapse on the security dimension of the organizational knowledge assets. At the same time, that contract should address the aspirations of what you started with Generation Z, because Gen Z has a different set of expectations from the life than the earlier millennials had, or before that baby boomers had, or Gen X had. And there's nothing wrong in that, because when a new generation comes in, Generation Alpha, which will come after Gen Z, obviously they will have a different set of expectations. So employee engagements have to be addressing the need of the employee and the need of the organization. Then only things like moonlighting, tomorrow there could be Mars lighting, there could be any such thing can come. So we can prevent such kind of a, I would say, problems from the corporate world or from the industry only by being proactive.
Right, sir. So just one counterpart which I would like to ask you is that, but what about those people who are not able to fulfill their family needs from their one job? What to do about them? Because as you said, but and as we know also that India is facing a lot of, not India, I think most of the Europe part and the India and Asia, everyone is facing a lot of employability or uh, correct pay scale issue. So there are a lot of people who have to run their homes, run their families. So if
So I
moonlighting, yeah, sir,
yeah. So that is, I think that is what I said. See, why you look at your employment contract. See, it's a matter of ethics versus your need. Now, if you justify your unethical action because you have to address the need, then you can justify a thief is doing theft because he has to meet the requirement of his family. See, meeting the needs of the requirements does not permit any individual to adopt unethical practices. The
right,
solution to this is that apply the legally valid options. So if your need is more and you can work more, okay, have a contract with the employer that look, I would like to have a freelancer. I don't want to join you as an employee, full-time employee. If the organization needs your talent, I think they'll be more than happy. In fact, if I hear some of the organizations have started talking about legalizing this moonlighting, not exactly moonlighting, but allowing employees to work with a different organization, provided they are not in the competitor space, provided the individual is informing to their supervisor that he does not have the work in the current project. So basically, you are de-risking your current organization and getting benefited. Then it is
right,
not it is not unethical. So
right,
as I said, either you have to change the employment models, the way the employee and the employer does the contracting, or you keep your work transparent to the current organization.
right,
It's about not to cheat your current engagement. If you're committed that I am with you, then I'm with you. If I'm going somewhere else, I'm also letting you know. If you are comfortable, then there's no problem. So meeting the organization, meeting the family needs absolutely has got no issue with this particular practice. You can always look for higher paying job as well.
correct, sir, correct. Yeah, if everything is being done in the notification of the higher authority, then it is fine. That is then there is not a problem, right, sir? So I know that you are working also in the field of design thinking, if I'm not wrong. So
Yeah.
a lot of audience, I presume that they are not well aware about the design thinking field. So if you would like to just explain them about the design thinking and the future of design thinking in India specifically, that will be great.
Okay, so let me put two things here. First of all, I also came across this term called design thinking in 2017. I attended a program, so that's the first time in India we started talking about this. So one thing is that it may not be completely new thing. As we always say in the management theory or management philosophy, that we have old wine in the new bottle. But if I talk about the design thinking, I think they also have some new wine as well. So it's not just the bottle which is different, but definitely they have put some new wine in it. Uh, and why in the last 3 or 4 years the design thinking is gaining popularity is that design thinking actually talks about not just the thinking, but it actually talks about action, and action at a fast pace. So sometimes people get misled. Oh, this is just about thinking. Or is it a thinking about some designing process? Because we said, okay, we have designers, people who design products. So we say that, okay, design thinking is about thinking design. Yes, there is an element of designing, but it's not about just thinking. So, and specifically why design thinking, before I give a little bit more detail about what is the design thinking, why it is getting more popular, because this is bringing in more human aspect into our thinking and action. As you know, that technology is taking over many areas where humans were operating,
Right, sir.
and we always have the fear that will technology take over the human
Right.
being?
Right.
The answer is very clear, that which I always say, that the creator will never and should never be afraid of its creation. If human being has evolved artificial intelligence, then real intelligence will always remain with the human being. But then we have to understand that are we really developing some of the human traits? Because if mechanical tasks are being handed over to robots, then as a human being we have to develop those human traits. So design thinking actually brings in those human dimensions into our thinking.
Right,
And
sir.
that is why it is becoming very, very popular these days, whether we look at in the management area, whether we look at into the product design, whether we look at in the service area, everywhere the design thinking is being talked. And
Right,
for
sir.
the benefit of your viewers, let me not say design thinking as a process, because some people have started selling design thinking also as a process. The
Right.
moment you define something as a process, you define something as a template, you define something as a checklist, then your creativity has already been taken away.
Right, sir.
So I would rather, for the benefit of the audience, will try to define very briefly design thinking as 10 governing principles. If
Okay.
somebody says that I want to practice design thinking, I want to become the practitioner of design thinking, then the 10 governing principles I would like to share very brief there, because topic is such big, we can take another half an hour to discuss only about design thinking.
Right.
So the very first thing the governing principle says, that it has to be action oriented. So takes away the myth that it is not just about thinking. You have to think and you have to do prototyping. You have to do something in real action. So the first governing principle is that you have to be action oriented. The second thing is that design thinking has to work in comfortable with change. If you're not comfortable with change, because design thinking may come up with some disruptive and provocative solutions, and those disruptive and provocative solutions may put you under a change which you may not be comfortable. So the second governing principle for anyone who want to practice design thinking is that person has to be comfortable with change. The third governing principle, as I said in the beginning, this is all about human centric. It is not machine centric. And when I say human centric, the humans sometimes are unable to articulate or express their intrinsic needs. Design thinking is all about we as a professional able to identify the unarticulated and unexpressed intrinsic needs of the human being, and basis that need, then we should come up with a product or a service. The fourth governing principle is about integrating foresight. Obviously, if I'm designing the product for future, I should be able to have foresight, how the things are going to be likely in the next 10 years, 5 years, 20 years. But again, future is always unclear. So integrating foresight actually means that I should be able to work with unknowns. I should not be waiting for everything to become known before I take an action. So working through when you have unknown, it's like you are in a dense forest, you don't have a map, but it doesn't mean that you don't proceed further. So whatever is known, you should be able to keep continuing, and you should be integrating the foresight. So that's the fourth principle. The fifth principle is dynamic constructive process. Now, how is it different from iterative process? In the iterative process or agile, we have a fixed goal in mind, and then we divide that into small steps. The difference between dynamic constructive process is that in iterative process, we have a goal and then we divide it into small steps. So we make a small part and then make another part, another part, another part, and reach the goal. That's the iterative process. Dynamic constructive process is, while it is iterative, but I'm also open to change my goalpost itself. Because as I said in my previous point of integrating foresight, that I'm not really clear about my complete requirement. So if at the next iteration, I'm getting clarity about newer set of requirement, I should be able to revisit my goalpost. So that's why I'm not calling it an iterative process. I'm calling it a dynamic constructive process. The sixth governing principle, and this is actually the foundation principle, because sometimes people think design thinking also as an iterative model or agile. So that is why this is different. That's why I highlighted this point. The sixth governing principle is about promotes empathy. And we have to understand the difference between sympathy and empathy. And this is linked to the third governing principle of being human centric. The difference between empathy and sympathy is that in sympathy, you only appreciate through your mind. But in empathy, you actually feel from your heart. So moving away from just thinking from your mind to feeling from your heart is what is promoting empathy. And this promoting empathy actually help you to create a differentiated product, which actually will be the differentiator in the market and will give you a sustainable business success. The next is about how do we reduce risks at the enterprise level? Because the design thinking says quick action, do prototyping, early failure, and learn from those small failures. Because of this promotion of early failures, early experimentation, we are able to ensure that enterprise level failures are minimized and risks at the enterprise level are addressed. The next governing principle is about creating meaning, because current methods are primarily to either enhance the value or optimize the value. Here the focus is about creating new value, but not only creating value. Before I create it, I should be able to meaningfully communicate. If I'm not able to tell to my customer that what is that value which I'm creating, then there will not be any taker, there will not be anybody who is going to pay money for that value.
Right,
And
sir.
how do we communicate value? We know that words can communicate very little. So our value has to be communicated through visual stories, through maps, through models, through stories, and many other tools through which we should communicate the stories or the meaning to our thing. And the last two aspects are that design thinking will help create a sustainable competitive advantage. You might have heard about red ocean, blue ocean, and
Hmm.
now we are also calling something called a gray ocean. So blue ocean is where you get the innovative products in the market. Red ocean is where you have a market. So people are, so many players are there, and only price war is the only way to win that battle. But price war battle cannot give you a sustainable edge. So design thinking actually helps you to create products and services in the blue ocean or in the gray ocean, and thereby give you a sustainable competitive advantage. And last but not the least, which I said in the vision or mission of my organization, Farm for Full Potential, is about culture. Now, culture is defined as a set of habits. But habits, while on one side are beneficial, on the other side, they are also very, very dangerous. Because whenever you go to the organization, they say, sorry, sir, this is not the way we work here. Sorry, sir, this is the only way we work here, because that's our culture. So when the culture becomes a bottleneck, the Farm for Full Potential gets in and says that, hey, look at your full potential. Look at the need of the today. And that is where the design thinking also says that we should be able to change our way of thinking. And way of thinking of an organization is nothing but a collective way of thinking of its individuals. So culture building at an enterprise level, how do we create that culture to the next level? And the next level is more suitable to the needs of today. especially when I say that the VUCA world, the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ad hoc, every day we need to see that it is the first day of my life, and in an unbiased manner, understand the challenges, understand the opportunities, adjust the culture around it, and apply these 10 principles of design thinking to not only address the business model requirements, also address the employee engagement requirements, but at the same time, we should also be using these design principles to manage the society and manage the self, because self is the nucleus, self is the individual, self is the building block of the society, of the organization, of the nation, and the whole world. So design thinking is, in my opinion, a very, very useful tool, useful concept, useful method, useful perspective, which I think the younger generation, particularly you talked about the students, they should adopt it and make use of it in their even career planning and other personal decision making. I've taken a little long time in explaining, but I hope it will be useful to your audience and to you.
I'm sure, sir, that out of uh, whatever you told about the design thinking, anyone can make a course out of that, and it
Yeah,
can
there are
be
courses
useful.
available. Yeah.
Yeah, and the principles you gave, I think that were a very good short notes to the people, to the students who want to understand design thinking. And also,
Yes.
yeah, design thinking is a booming career right now, and that is very well explained by you, sir. So moving to the last segment of our podcast, sir, the last question which I would like to ask you as a president of IIT Roorkee Alumni. So, what is that important message you would like to give to a student or to an IIT aspirant who wants to join IIT, or to a student who wants to become successful from the perspective of and president of IIT Roorkee? So that will be very helpful for everyone.
I think you have asked a very complex question. I can see there are many parts to it. Let me answer first part, second part, and the third part. So first part is that, how do we be successful in our career, irrespective of whether I have passed from IIT or non-IIT. See, it's always a good aspiration, and one should work towards getting into IITs because those are the esteemed institutions where we get to connect with the highly talented people around, highly talented professors around, and highly good infrastructure. So it is always good to be there. But if you are not there, that also doesn't mean the end of the career. So that's number one, because the brightest of the brightest students are available even outside the IIT system. And here I would like to just emphasize this point. I was talking to, I was listening to the managing director of Microsoft India. He happens to be our alumni, and he was talking on this point of, that earlier they used to go to only few institutes to recruit, and now they are going to more institutes to recruit. Now, what is the fundamental difference? The fundamental difference is that the cost of recruitment itself, there is a cost to recruitment. So they were earlier choosing few campuses, maybe starting with IITs and NITs and then few other selected institutes. Now, as the recruitment process has started adopting technologies, we have AI based first level chatbots doing the interview, and there are other ways of filtering out the CVs of the people. uh, they say we can actually reach out to more people. So the recruiters have started not differentiating between IIT campus or non-IIT campus. So my point here is that if you have been able to make it, very good, congratulations. But if you are not able to make it, don't get disappointed. Continue to develop your skill and knowledge and attitude. So if your attitude, skill, and knowledge is of a high grade, even if you are not in some specific campus, it should not deter you from getting your ambition, getting the kind of a job which you are looking forward, or your dream job. So that is the first part. The second part is, once you get into the job, if I take my own life. If somebody would have asked in 83 when I started my career that how your career will end in, let's say, 2020, I had no clue. But now when I look back, how my career has flown, when I started as an R&D engineer, research and development, moved into manufacturing, computer manufacturing, did exports of computers, then got into services, software development, project management, business excellence, and then other kind of a services. So I see that fortunate to move from research and development to manufacturing to IT services. Uh, and now I'm working on, let's say, culture building and green hydrogen. If you see this whole thing, it looks like a, what is this guy? He's doing? Why changing? He was an R&D engineer. He should have remained as an R&D engineer. Now, I would say that I have just flown with the way the industry was flowing. And we say when there is a flow, there is a glow. So I believe that because I had flew along with the industry, I was able to maintain the glow in my career. It might have come by chance. It might have come by choice. But I can be by choice if I'm prepared to make that choice. If I'm not prepared to make that choice, then it will come by chance. So the recommendation to the professionals who are entering in the professional world, whether they are coming as a professional taking jobs or they are coming as an entrepreneur, I think the word which I said, agility, is what is required. One should not get too much attached to certain type of things. They should be willing to shed something and accept something. Learn, unlearn, and relearn, which can, in one word, called learning agility. Business agility, looking at the new business domains and venturing into new business domains. If these kind of agilities are adopted, then irrespective of which institutes you have come out, actually you can make your successful career. And just to add here, actually, even if you have come from some reputed institute, actually that gives you edge only in the first 5 years. After 5 years, actually it doesn't matter from which institutes you have come. What matters is that what have you done in the first 5 years of your professional career, and what actually you have the ability to do in the future. So your attitude, skill, and the knowledge actually will determine the altitude, what you will achieve in the career, and not precisely the institute from where you have studied. Yes, the initial jump, initial high platform, you certainly get. And the last part, which you said about the IIT aspirants, I think there is no reason that we should put all the efforts to get into the best college, the best profession, best professional institute available. But when I come across the situations of students committing suicides or students going to quota factory where they are doing away with their experience of the school, my personal my personal suggestion and my personal experience is that what you learn in school, 9, 10th, 11th, 12th, actually you will never get a chance. And most important thing, you get the friends for life. If you just get dedicated to one quota factory, and just not against quota factory, but I'm just saying that if you just get, say, only coaching and getting into IITs, probably you miss out on a very important part of your life. You may not get the lifetime friends which you get in the school system. So one should not substitute one with the other. You should have full ambition. You should take coaching. You should take support, work towards it. But that is not the end of your life. When people say they adopt drugs or they do suicide or their families are not happy, their family thinks that, oh, the life has come to an end. My recommendation to the parents of those students as well as to the students is that if you are not getting into, maybe the God has a better plan for you. Sometimes we say that, oh, I have failed here. But after 10 years, we realize that that failure was a boon. Had you not failed in that, it's like sometimes you miss a bus and after 2 days you find that bus met with an accident. Then what you say, oh, good that I missed that bus. If I come to my career, or it will be true for anybody's career, we had seen some lows and downs in our career where we said, hey, what did we do wrong, why did we come across this bad situation, why we have been laid off, why we've been given pink slip, why our organization has not given promotion, why our organization has taken away our job, why they were not given increment. Now all those situations, at that time we were highly worried. But now, after 10 years, after 20 years, if we look back and try to analyze that situation, we say, hey, that was a boon in disguise. Good that we were not given that opportunity. So we left and we decided a new track.
Right.
So the recommendation to those students, if you are not able to get into your identified path, don't be afraid. This is not the end of the life. Maybe an alternate and a better and a bright future awaits you. But we should be very clear about कर्मण्ये वाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफल हेतु भुर्वा te sangostav karmani. Your focus has to be keep working, because not working is not an option.
Right.
But whenever you are working, neither you should be attached to the work and nor you should be attached to the outcome of the work.
Right,
Because
sir.
if you are attached to the outcome of the work, then you get then you get obsessed to sorry then you get depressed. And when you get attached to the work, then you get obsessed. And when you get obsessed, then you're not willing to do different thing. Whereas winners don't do different things, they sometimes do the things differently. So to be successful, I think we have to keep exploring, doing different things or doing the things differently, whatever might be the opportunity, because there is no end to life. Every day is a new day, and every day you can plan your future, which is certainly going to be better than what it is today or what it was yesterday.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Uh, I think if being a student, if I'm also listening to this podcast, like all the insightfuls which you have given about mentorship, about the future, about the children's or the students' perspective, how they should think, I think that will give them a very good and a very clear picture in the life. And I would just like to say in the last, thank you so much, sir, that you have decided and you accepted the request to join on our podcast and share so much of an experience and so much of insightful information which can help a student to think differently and to act differently. So thank you so much, sir. uh,
Thank you very much. It was
Thank you.
pleasure talking to you. And even if
Same.
one student can make 1% change in their life through this podcast, I think I will think that it is worth investment of
Pleasure.
time. Thank you very
Pleasure, sir.
much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for joining. Bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thank you.